One of the tense moments in the October 22nd hearing on Benghazi centered on Hillary Clinton's insistence that the attacks on American personnel and facilities at Benghazi were triggered by an obscure YouTube video that mocked the Prophet Muhammad. Buckeye State GOP Congressman Jim Jordan compared Clinton's explanation with her private emails and conversations with world leaders and members of her family.
That's important in a fundamental sense because you want your government to be square with you, and it sure didn't seem like she was being square with the American people. You're looking at an email you sent to your family. Here's what you said. At 11 o'clock that night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an al-Qaeda-like group.
Then, less than 24 hours after the attacks,
you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest.
2 days later, after the attacks, at a ceremony with the caskets of the 4 men killed at Benghazi, Hillary Clinton, then Secretary of State, told family members when they met privately, and then publicly in her remarks, a different story.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
Charles Woods, father of Tyrone Woods, who was killed along with Sean Smith, Glenn Doherty, and Ambassador Christopher Stevens, said sitting in the hearing during this exchange was a shock.
It kind of went through my mind. Now, where is your memory of what you said to the Prime Minister? Because the next day, when the bodies came in to Andrews Air Force Base, you met with me and you told me a completely different story. I happen to keep a notebook with me, and so I write down important things. This is what it says. I gave Hillary a hug and shook her hand, and she said, "We are going to have the filmmaker arrested who was responsible for the death of your son." And then I started to look at that, the last part of it, where she said, "Who the filmmaker who was responsible for the death of your son." So at this point, she was already saying, I wasn't responsible for it. The failure of American foreign policy wasn't responsible for it. It was the filmmaker that was responsible for it. Was she telling the truth to the Prime Minister of Egypt? That the attack in Libya had, quote unquote, nothing to do with the video? Or was she telling the truth to me?
Neil W. McCabe, One American News, Washington.